Good morning, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 19th day of April 2021. My name is Sam Gituko, and it's time we want to discuss matters that have been affecting the nation, including the situations over the weekend. And I want to start by introducing the panel that we have here. Caleb Kositanyi is the Member of Parliament for Soy constituency in Uasin Gishu County. Karibu sana to the show. We have Senator Mithika Linturi from Meru County. Karibu sana to the show. And Dr. Chris Omalwa from Community Constituency in Trans Nzoia County. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you very much.
And shortly we'll be joined by one Beatrice Alachi, who is the Chief Administrative Secretary at the Public Service and Gender Ministry. She'll be joining us shortly so that she can tell us how life has been since life's changed. So as we wait for that, let's take a look at some of the stories that are making headlines in the two dailies. I want to begin by looking at the Standard. Civil servants and teachers in strike threat over 83 billion shillings. And this is because of what it appears that the government is explaining that there are budgetary constraints due to the upcoming elections and effects of COVID-19. They're estimating the next election to cost about 42 billion shillings. The other question is about another story that you see there is of the Matiang'i factor in Uhuru's succession, a decoy or the real deal. Several of his cabinet colleagues have thrown their weight behind the Interior CS as an alternative candidate for the top seat in 2022 elections. Something else after results scramble for Form 1 slots starts, many candidates eyeing coveted national schools with a capacity for 30,000 students after only 8,091 got 400 marks. So that is the story that you'll see on the Standard. But on The Nation, the front page story is MPs in night talks to craft a Ruto deal. On Friday and Saturday, some 48 lawmakers, mostly from Mount Kenya and Rift Valley regions, met at the home of Mathira legislator Rigathi Gachagua to discuss economic and political demands they want agreed with Deputy President William Ruto. This is a story that we'll focus later on the show as we get to the question about politics. But I want us to begin with the story you see there. Curfew nightmare, traffic management to be reviewed. And of course, you must have seen those pictures over the weekend. I believe it was on Saturday evening and last night of people that were stranded on Thika Road, Wayakiwe, and so many other roads across the city, and the police saying that they want to enforce that curfew to ensure that you are out of the roads by 8 p.m., which has been going on since the 26th of March 2021. And one Caleb Kositanyi, let me just introduce Beatrice Alachi. She's here now, the Chief Administrative Secretary at the Public Service and Gender Affairs. Good morning. Good morning. What is the Swahili name for your title?
The best you can say is
Okay. Unfortunately, Honorable Elachi, your mic appears to be having a challenge, and some waziri mdogo, but all the same, we'll... Yeah.
Karani.
Yeah. We'll get that. We'll get to that. Unfortunately, your mic is not on, so we'll fix it. But let me begin with you.
Edwin.
Yes, we also have one Edwin Sifuna, the Secretary General of ODM. He is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Right, and let me begin with you, Caleb Kositanyi, by looking at the night curfew that the country has been going on. We have seen that the numbers are not looking good. Over 310 have died in April alone, and the numbers of infections that has been reported is likely to actually be higher than the month of March. And then the images of Saturday. Of course, there has been this cry by Kenyans that it appeared as if it was unfair. How better would you suggest that we deal with it? Like, people need to be at home by 8 p.m.
Well, I think what happened on Saturday across Nairobi was actually very sad. That our government decided that Kenyans would suffer more, other than the suffering they have undergone through the lockdowns and all. They would suffer more and spend the night, cold nights on the roads because of no fault of their own. I think there were better ways of imposing the curfew, or rather ensuring that people are at home. There should have been a serious announcement by the police that from today, if you are not there by 8, we're going to lock down, so that people make prior arrangements. It's not fair that you just lock the roads. You have ambulances on the roads. You have I saw a lady called Jane Mugo frantically trying to talk to the policemen to open the road because there was a pregnant woman who was set to deliver and being rushed to hospital, and she was being told to call the order. These are orders from above. Which above is this? And she was trying to call, and she was actually, that Jane Muga needs to be commended. She's very well connected because she was told to call the IG. She tried calling the IG. She tried, I only think maybe she didn't have the number for whoever was giving the orders from above. So it was very unfair that Kenyans were treated that way. I think nobody would defer the curfew rules intentionally. There is a reason why those people were on the road past curfew time. And they must have had a genuine reason. And there were many. There were so many of them.
Right.
I think that shouldn't be allowed. The police should apologize to Kenyans. We actually would like to know if anybody died during that blockade on Saturday. The police should squarely be held responsible, because that is hurting Kenyans more, yet they are already suffering from COVID issues.
Okay, and Dr. Chris Omala, what do you suggest? Because he says that Kenyans should have been warned, but they have known since 26th of March that you're not allowed to be outside in the disease-infected zone past 8 p.m.
Thank you. First and foremost, allow me to pass a message of condolence. I've lost an uncle by the name George Barasa, and to take this opportunity to pass a message of condolence to the family, my cousins and my aunties, my uncles, to say pole, and to pray the Almighty God to give them strength and comfort at this difficult time. I think the burial will be this Saturday in Chesamis. I thank you. Now, coming back to the issue of COVID, first and foremost, I want to emphasize that this third wave is deadly. And when the third wave is deadly, it's an extraordinary time that we must have extraordinary measures to contain this pandemic. It is no joke. It needs a delicate balance. But over the weekend, what we have seen the police doing, there must be a delicate balance. But police are not robots or machines. You just press on and off. They must look at the situation on a unique basis. For instance, if there's an ambulance or a fire, you should allow that. You don't need to say you get instructions from above. Some things need a bit of some common sense. And you've seen situations whereby, like the issue Honorable CK has just mentioned. This was a pregnant mother who is about to deliver. I think common sense dictates that when you see such a scenario, it's a unique issue, and you must exercise your emotional intelligence quickly and allow such a person. And that's why ambulances are allowed. If it's a fire engine rushing somewhere, it should be allowed. It does not mean that when you've been given instructions, you should look at the issue of the unique case scenario. And also, some Kenyans are suffering, particularly with this lockdown. You remember last time when His Excellency the President locked down, we had some strategies to cushion Kenyans, the tax relief and all that. But this time, Kenyans have no tax cushions and all that.
Right.
We have seen people breaking in even into churches to steal for food. So government needs to look for a way of how do we feed these Kenyans. That's the most important thing. It is, I know it's a delicate balance, but His Excellency the President, wherever he is.
But how would you suggest the government enforces these measures that you shouldn't be out there past 8 o'clock, even as you talk about common sense?
I know it's been a challenge, and I'm calling upon Kenyans. As I said, this third wave is deadly, and there was a bit of some relaxation. Personally, I've gone to my village, and I've seen people, when you even tell them to go for vaccinations, they don't want to do it. Even to put on a mask, they are reluctant. So we want to tell them that this COVID is real, particularly this third wave is real, and we are calling upon Kenyans to adhere to the protocols that have been put in place.
Okay, and Senator Linturi, so of course, these measures are here with us until the President said that they can only be lifted once we flatten, and flattening means below 5% of positivity rate. At the moment, as of last night, it was at past 10%.
Yes,
So it may take time, excuse me, for us to flatten the curve. Yet there are all these concerns from Kenyans because of these measures. Do you have any divergent thoughts of what can be done to really achieve the gains?
Sam, you know, I'm not an expert in that particular area. But I think when the president addressed the nation, if I heard him well, saying that he was doing so out of advice from the experts. So probably I would say that the experts should be given back that responsibility to advise further on what should be done in the event that whatever advice I've given do not continually bear fruit or appear to be flattening the curve. But some, you know, what I saw, what I've heard about what happened on Saturday is a clear manifestation, a clear indication of a very, very insensitive government towards the agony that Kenyan people are going through. You know, when people are given the opportunity to exercise or to grant the law, they must always apply their minds and remember, whenever they are doing it, it cannot be done in isolation and without looking at the circumstances. So we lost lives, that I am sure, and the police or anybody who commands the police should have been there to direct the police officers and to understand these people were not late in bars drinking. People, these guys that are in charge of this country do not understand that there are Kenyans that must work for that particular day to earn food for their family. Some of them delayed on the road, taking bread, supper to their children. And when the roads were blocked, it means those families went without food. So they should have really listened to understand the circumstances under which people were late, other than just close an highway and adopt that care and don't-care attitude. Is really deplorable. I detest that kind of attitude.
SG Sifuna, good morning, and where were you on Saturday? Were you caught up, and what are your thoughts about this?
No, luckily for me, I was home, but in all fairness, Kenyans generally and Nairobians in particular have, over the period of the past 1 year, generally adhered to the restrictions that have been put in place by government to contain this pandemic. And I think from the very onset of the lockdown, the first phase of COVID, what people have been looking for is some humaneness in the enforcement of the regulations. Because many of your panelists here, politicians, they will understand that even when it comes to voting day, everybody knows that polls close at 5, but if you are on queue, by the time 5 o'clock reaches, they will allow you to vote. So to find someone on the road at 8:15 or at 8:30 is not something that is so irregular that they would be met with the sort of punishment that was being suggested. I'm very happy with the statement that was put out by the police commander in Nairobi, that in fact they are going to try and manage the transition into the curfew hours a bit better, because it is that transition period that is critical, so that it is not as if these people were found in a bar somewhere or you know, in a restaurant having a good time. These were people who are trying to rush to beat the traffic and the curfew. So that motorists who are trying to just get back home, they deserve some humaneness. That is what everybody is looking for in dealing with this pandemic, that we must not forget our humanity even as we enforce the lockdown rules. Okay, and CAS Beatrice Alachi, we were struggling to find a proper title for your, a proper name for your title in Swahili. But also, because you come from the side of government, and there are these questions being raised that the government appears to have been insensitive to the plight of Kenyans at a time that all these measures are going to affect their businesses, to affect their work. What is the government doing to alleviate this pain? But also because we know that there has been that trend that we flatten the curve, we reopen, and now because the curve went up, we shut down, so that we're waiting for it to flatten. What are we doing in the meantime to ensure that we do not find ourselves repeating the same cycle next time?
Okay, first of all, wacha nijaribu. Katibu mkuu kwa utawala, kwa wizara ya utumishi na umma. na jinsia.
Katibu mkuu kwa
Yeah.
utawala.
Yeah. By the way, it's very utawala marake public service ni umma na gender ni jinsia, basi utachanganya hapo vyote.
All right.
Then we go back now to our...
We'll consult with Jamila Mohammed.
Yes, you have to consult with those who really... Kiswahili ni lugha ya aina nyingi.
Okay.
Ina ngeli nyingi sana. But anyway, first of all, it's to really apologize and to say what I've been saying always. Government is not one person. Government, we have failed Kenyans because of us officers. Officers. Because when we are given a policy to implement, we implement it in a manner that now, because I am maybe angry, so I'll do it the way I want. And then, but in the end of the day, yes, the back stops with, it will start saying it's government and all that. And for sure, even as Kenyans, as Chris said, honestly, we have to understand this third wave. I think I have friends. Today, I know I have a friend who lost the father in a week, and we just lost the mother, and we are about to, and many of them have gone through that. So if anyone has not gone through COVID, don't try and joke. Don't try and think it's a joke when people are crying on one side and the other side. Maybe you are lucky enough, none of your families, and we are praying that it should not happen. To those who have not happened, we pray, we still pray that we have to see this curve go down. And therefore, what happened on Saturday, I know many people called. I even called and said, fine, people are late, but we cannot now make everyone suffer. Now, for the ambulances, let us not also take Kenyans and say we are very good. What we normally do, what do we normally do? When we see an ambulance, all of us follow, because we know it is in a fast, and we will pass even the roadblocks. So we came, all of us, and blocked the road. Even if the police opens, it has to take a while for even that ambulance, because all of us wanted to go. And even the lane that is on Thika Road, that is really kept, which I think the other thing we need to do, let's create awareness. If there is that road on Thika, the lane on Thika Road, that is for ambulances, we create awareness and tell Nairobians, if you are caught on this lane at a time when you know it is for ambulances, then you also have to pay a fine, because what are you doing on that lane? And you know it's a fast lane to help those who are in crisis. And because as we don't look at those things, but at the same time, people don't create awareness for people to understand.
Okay.
So we need a lot of awareness also to start knowing the lanes. But we also need a lot of understanding that most of the highways are on really being built, construction is going on. So maybe if you are coming on Mombasa Road and you have to hit on Thika Road, you will definitely delay on Mombasa Road because of the constructions that are going on. And also, there's no way you can tell me curfew starts at 8 and you will close at 8. You know very well you can give people at least 1 hour. And therefore, the roadblocks should start at least at 9, knowing very well you've given them a leeway of 1 hour. Those who are driving, and we know you're passing through what, and when you arrive there, there's what I always say, understanding. So you can't just be adamant, because you don't know.
I'm just wondering, because you're a government officer,
yes,
and you have those views that you express here.
Yes.
Why is it difficult for your colleagues to see things the same way? Or is it you who is getting it wrong, that if curfew is at 8, it has to be at 8 and the roadblock has to be at 8?
Well, I don't know whether I'm getting it wrong, Sam, but I know, and there are many government people who know that it starts at 8 years. They would want to see less even at that 8. But you have to understand, there is a person who was a nurse who was checking out some minutes to 8 to hand over to the next so that she goes home. There was any other person. Fine, those are what we call essential services.
Right.
But by the time I find all these other people, will I be able even to express myself that I'm also an essential service? So I would plead. I mean, and then I would plead to our officers, service officers, the policemen, that when you see it's on a highway, On a highway, remember, we have everyone joining in from the different routes they've come. So it will be a long thing.
Okay.
And therefore, you have to give that highway. And by the way, in the first wave, Thika Road police were the best. You would have never found such a thing, because there was a way they gave leeway, and then they would come at a certain time, and at that time you will understand if they get you, you have to explain where you are coming from.
So the second part of that question is about what the government is doing in the intervening period to ensure that we do not find ourselves in the same cycle next time.
Well, one, we have to, this is something I always say, it's a holistic approach where Kenyans will understand. We are many, the police will understand, and I hope us as government, and I want to thank the regional commander. He has said he's going to review, and therefore I think one of the apologies he has done, he has realized, let me first come in and bring in a solution. And I think that's the best thing. Review and see how we can deal with the highway, especially, I would say, the roads of Mombasa Road, Thika Road, and Rongai. I went to Rongai one time, and I sat in that traffic. Curfew came, arrived, we sat there. We were leaving the place, I think, at 9:30, at another, and not today.
Okay.
It's only that maybe they were very patient. And the other thing, let us not now drive in a way that we clog each other and congest each other because of that hurry. Because that is also, even if you open that road, you'll take a while because all of you have just come in. And for those who are drinking, yes, you drink, but also you come in with some decorum of appreciating that.
Okay.
Maybe you were drinking,
All right.
but you don't just abuse. When I see my sister fighting, I have a patient. You have another one who's completely on his own, and you are abusing, and you know very well. You will not say that you have come from any work. You have come from enjoying yourself.
Honorable Elachi, I had asked about the question of, because you see, at the moment we are within those containment measures as announced by the President on 26th of March, but the people are being concerned that what will happen once we flatten the curve and we reopen, what will make us not shut the economy again and get back to the suffering that people may be going through now. But all the same, we take a short break here. When we come back, we'll be talking about, that is the second week of Chief Justice interviews at the Judicial Service Commission. We'll take just a brief look at what transpired last week and what really will inform the ultimate candidate who succeeds Justice David Baraga after the break.